Hello, welcome to another edition of the Pace Report, reporting live here at BB King's here in New York City. Guitarist Lee Ritenour is sitting on top of the world with his latest Concord Records release, The Six String Theory. Tonight he's going to be playing selections off the brand new CD, and tonight we're going to talk about the origins of this monumental guitar disc. It features the great guitar minds of all over the world, including B.B. King, Keb Mo, Taj Mahal, Pat Martino. The list goes on and on. Six-string theory. This is really a labor of love for you. You put together some of the most incredible guitars from all genres on this album.
Thank you, Brian. It was a dream come true for me to do the album, and kind of something I was probably destined to do my whole life.
How long did it take you to put this together, and what were some of the things that you were looking for as far as content? Because, I mean, you go from blues to classical to flamenco. I mean, you do everything on here.
Yeah. Well, the idea was a celebration of the guitar. So the guitar was front and center, but I was determined to make sure it was a musical album, not just for guitar players to hear. But I did want to sort of present almost the evolution of the guitar, and so I decided there was sort of six strings on the guitar, six major genres that I would cover: rock, blues, jazz, acoustic, classical, and country. And then I had the title in the beginning, String Theory, and I thought sort of, like the scientific term, we would sort of take this evolution and tear apart the guitar and put it back together and explore the universe with it, and so Six String Theory, that's how the name came. Then I decided on the six genres, and then I also started to put out calls to some of my closest friends, and we ended up with 20 amazing guitarists on the album.
There are some beautiful songs on here. Like, I love the one that you did with Pat Martino in tribute to really one of the visionaries of the guitar.
Yes, LP, Les Paul, and that's the name of the tune, which also stands for Lee and Pat, because it was Pat Martino who joined me. And so when I wrote that tune, in fact, this is a great story with this guitar, this Les Paul, because I normally play a Gibson 335 and a Gibson L5, and so I wasn't really associated with Les Pauls so much, and so I called my friends at Gibson and I said, can you make me a cherry Les Paul, like a 59 reissue? And the head of the custom shop, Mike McGuire, who I've known since we were 12 years old, he said, I'll hook you up, Lee. And so took a few months to build the guitar. And it showed up at my house, at my studio, the day Les Paul died. We opened the door, the UPS guy is there, there's this Les Paul. And it's a gorgeous cherry one. And so then I wrote on this guitar. I recorded it on my jazz guitar with Pat Martino, but I wrote it on this guitar, and it just came out like in 10 minutes, so Les must have been writing it for me. And the record company, John Burke at Concord Records, said, Lee, why don't you write a tune dedicated to Les Paul. So when I wrote LP, it was a very directional sort of exercise in the sense, okay, I want to write a tune, because I knew Pat Martino and I were going to jam together. I said, okay, Pat and I would probably be good to play kind of a Les Paul type tune. So I got to write something that fits Pat and I, but pays tribute to Les Paul. So that's how I came up with LP.
There are so many great musicians on here. Slash. I think another standout track is George Benson. And George kind of comes full circle to where he begins on this. How was that for you, getting him in the studio playing straight ahead jazz again?
Well, I've known George for years. I've played a lot on his records. He's worked with me before. We've done live stuff together. He has been an icon amongst guitarists forever. He's one of the greatest guitar players on the planet, period. He still blows everybody's mind whenever he wants to. He's had a great success in the commercial world as well as a singer and a guitarist, as we know. But it was important on this album. I said, George, I don't need your lovely singing. I don't even need the scatting, and we don't need no groove stuff. I want you to play some bebop. Go back to your roots. And he said, okay, let me get with Joey DeFrancesco, and he went there. So it was great.
Another thing that you have done with this recording, as well as something that you're very, very heavily involved with, is the guitar competition. And a couple of the guitarists that won the competition are on this album.
Yeah, well, one in particular. The other vision for the record was that, like all of us, we're all over YouTube today and watching just amazing stuff in every genre of life. And so, of course, my son was showing me, hey, Dad, did you check out this 15-year-old guitar player? Did you check out this 12-year-old guitar player? Did you check out this 8-year-old guitar player? So they just get younger and younger. And so I thought, wow, what a great idea if I could have an international guitar competition. Everyone could join up from around the world, send their YouTube videos to the Six String Theory site, and then we had a competition. 45 countries were involved, and over 500 entries at that time. And we had we picked one winner in each genre, and finally a young classical guitarist from Montreal, Canada, Sean Boubliel, won the competition. He's on the record. We got him a 4-year scholarship to Berklee College of Music, where he's going now. Everyone won great prizes from Yamaha, who was the main sponsor of the contest, and Monster Cable, and D'Addario Strings, and Berklee College of Music. It was really great. And so I was able to bring these companies together with the record and with the educational aspect, and it was so fun to have kind of a new talent. Then on top of that, I had what I call my YouTube babies. I think that's what you're referring to. Joe Robinson, who's already successful, and he's now he's 19 or maybe pushing 20, but he was 18 when we recorded, and so he's a phenomenal sort of country acoustic player. And then Guthrie Govan, and these are all guys, and Andy McKee. These are all guys that have kind of grown up getting famous from YouTube, but now they have full-on careers. Andy McKee has, I think, 50 million hits on his videos or some crazy thing.
Let's talk about the beginnings, because you, throughout your career, you have played everything. You have played blues, you've played jazz, you've played straight ahead rock. Where did it start off for you in California?
Well, the other main reason for the record, by the way, was a celebration of me playing the guitar for 50 years. I started when I was 8 years old, and made the record when I was 58 in 2010. And so and when I started back in the 60s, first of all, I was a lover of the guitar. So anyone that could play the guitar great, I was listening to. So that meant Segovia on the classical, Sabicas on the flamenco, Chet Atkins on the countryside, Merle Travis, John Rinborn on the acoustic stuff. Along comes a guy named Jimi Hendrix, Wes Montgomery's there, Kenny Burrell, Joe Pass, B.B. King, Albert King. I was listening to the Doors, I was listening to the Beatles. And it was a great time for the guitar. It was just, the guitar was everywhere, and I was absorbing all of it. So I grew up with no barriers, and my fans know that about me, because you can never pin me down. I'll keep changing on you.
Well, I mean, exactly. I mean, even those recordings, those great recordings you did on GRP. I mean, you did Westbound, the tribute to Wes Montgomery, one of your idols, and then you did your debut album, which was pretty much kind of flamenco / world kind of acoustic type of. I mean, you've done everything.
Yeah. Well, the first album actually goes all the way back to 1976. Yeah, first course. So it's a long way, but I've done a lot of Brazilian stuff. I love Brazil, and that was another thing. I grew up in the 60s when Showbeam and João Gilberto and Astrid Gilberto and Stan Getz had those big hits. So that whole nice acoustic, lovely thing was happening. So I got influenced by that. So I got influenced by Motown. I was all the great rhythm playing. So wherever the guitar was playing, I was listening.
You came out at a time in the 60s and into the 70s when recording artists were using a lot of young musicians like yourself, and you became a very well-seasoned guitarist by playing the different genres of music.
Yeah. But I grew up really designed to be a studio musician. By my teachers and in my own thinking. And in those days, 60s and 70s, it was a very desirable thing to be a studio player, because also you could be the studio guy in LA or New York and or Nashville and end up working 10, 15 sessions a week easy. And then in the evenings, if you still had the energy, go out and play gigs and do the live thing. But you were always part of a puzzle, a piece of the pie. And eventually, even at a young age, I knew I wanted to make my own records and control the whole pie.
You have done some things in your career as well that I think with your technique, what is it that differentiates you from all your other contemporaries like a Larry Carlton or a Stanley Jordan? What is the Lee Ritenour style?
Well, I think I'm always very melodic. I think I'm very rhythmic. There's always a lot of rhythm in my playing, and that kind of crosses over. Even from listening to Wes Montgomery, he was very rhythmic, more rhythmic than some of the other jazz players at the time. And, I mentioned Motown, so I got a lot of rhythm. When I came up as a studio musician, I was a rhythm player first. So I always had a lot of rhythm in my playing. And also I was very concerned about the sound, as was somebody like Carlton. We always had great tone, and so, but I always liked this very warm and fat and melodic kind of sound. So it's kind of the melody versus the rhythmic aspect. And then, there's a lot of technique and chops in there too, but I don't try to abuse that, so it's always about being more tasty than anything.
That'll do it again for another edition of the Pace Report. Reporting live here at B.B. King's here in New York City. I'd like to personally thank Lee Ritenour for his time, as well as the staff here at B.B. King's here in New York City. As always, please visit my website, www.thepacereport.com, for my weekly column, as well as my past segments. Until next time, remember, if it's in the groove, it'll make you move. Until next time, peace.